Okay, good morning and good afternoon. We're ready to get started here. Day 3 of Downstreaming 2020. Our first presentation up this morning is CAM350 Gui tips and techniques. We're going to take a look at some of the changes that have been made and demonstration, but maybe some presentation as well. Our speaker this morning is Mark Gallant.
Thank you, Ray. Hello, everyone. So today I'll be presenting what is titled as GUI Tips and Techniques. The idea here is to show you some of the things that we implemented in 14. Maybe you've been using 14.1 for a while, and you really aren't using all of the GUI features. So my idea is to try to show you some of the things that you may not be aware of, give you some tips, and maybe you can build on that when you're working with CAM350 on your own. So just to give you an opening reminder, when we delivered CAM350 14.0, it was a big GUI update, really. It was a big change. We merged the CAM and NC editors, and we replaced all of the outdated multi-level menus with standard ribbons. We combined a bunch of multi-level hierarchical dialogues with singular combined functional dialogues. The goal was to take as much clicks, right mouse button clicks, out of the application as we could. Modeless individual panes replaced the singular navigation pane. So you can see on the right here, we had this navigation pane where you could expand and show some of the data tables, but you couldn't see them easily one at a time. Now we've introduced them as all modeless panes, which I'll demonstrate. We introduced floating panes and modeless dialogues to replace a lot of modal dialogues. There was a lot of times where you'd open a dialogue in CAM350 and that's all you could do, open the dialogue. But now we have a lot of modeless dialogues, and you'll see the panes are a good example of that, where they stay open, they react to changes you make in real time. We also were able to introduce ribbon and short key customization because of this new UI. I'll also go over that as well. So I'll go right into panes. What is a pane? It's a resizable, modeless, meaning that it can stay open and be open while you're interacting with the application. It's modeless. It's a modeless dialogue providing quick access to commonly used features. So we grouped all of these features into these panes, specifically layer display, decode pane, layers pane, and so forth. They're very specific functions. Now, these panes can be floated, docked vertically or horizontally. They can also be nested with other panes to create a multi-tab pane. They can be separated from the application frame and placed anywhere. For instance, if you're like myself, I have multiple monitors. I can take some of these panes and push them off to another monitor. They're always there, they're always open, and I don't take up precious real estate in my viewing area. Now, one thing to remember is that the last pane location for all panes and their dock state is saved and recalled via the application registry. So if I set up my CAM350 UI with my panes scattered about in the different locations and I close CAM350, I don't have to do it all over again. It remembers next time I open it where those panes were last located, the size of the pane, the location of the pane. So that's a real advantage if you intend to customize the user interface. Now, what is the anatomy of a pane? Now, I'm put that up here kind of tongue in cheek, but I really want to make sure you understand the elements of a pane because I'm going to mention these terms as I go through my demonstration. So this is the title bar of a pane, the top of the dialogue, if you will. This is the command bar. Most of the panes have unique commands for their specific functions. This is the area where this pane happens to be displaying layer content. And in a lot of panes that are table-based, like this, you have a selection column on the left. That's for you to be able to select things without interacting with the data. Now, there are times when that's beneficial, and I'll demonstrate that. And of course, these are the tabs. So in this case, this is a pane that has 3 nested panes: layer display, layer sets, and composites. Now, whenever you take a pane and you float it, it's going to have a different presentation than when it's docked. And I'll show you that. So you have some more controls when it's docked, and either you open or close it when it's floating. Now, the title bar, as you can see, when docked, you can just use the controls up at the title bar of a pane to float it, dock it, auto hide it, or hide it. And I'll show you exactly what those are. And again, when you're dragging a pane, you have the ability to dock it to the frame of the application or the frame of another pane. You could actually nest it. So I'm going to show you what all these graphics and all these titles mean in my demonstration. So here's CAM350. Now I said I was using 14.1. I lied. I'm using 14.5. But it's the same thing. Anything I show you here is present in 14.1. I just prefer to use 14.5 at the moment. So here is the layer display pane is being shown of this 3-pane pane, if you will. It's a nested pane. One of the things you could do is if I double click a title bar, double click, it undocks it, double click, it redocks it. It remembers the last location. I can also press my left mouse button on the title bar and drag the pane off. Now, whenever I'm dragging a pane, as you can see, I have these docking graphics, which tells me what part of the frame I can dock it to. Okay, I'm going to show you more on that in a second. Another thing you could do when it's docked is I can put it in auto hide mode. Now, I can either click here and choose auto hide mode, or you have this little push pin graphic. If I click that, it goes into auto hide mode, and it's like a window shade. Every time I want to see that pane, I can just hover over the tab, and it'll bring it up. I can interact with it. When I'm done with it, I put it away. What that does is it gives me the ability to push panes away from my view and maximize my view. If I want to restore it, well, I just go back and either click turn off auto hide, or the equivalent is to push this push pin back down. So that's how you can auto hide, dock, undock. Now, since I have 3 panes embedded into this pane, I'm going to separate the layer display pane. How do I do that? I put my cursor over the pane tab, press, hold, and drag. And now I've got just the layer display pane. I still have these 2 panes over here, but I've now separated the layer display pane from the other 2. What if I want to put it back? Well, if I drag it, as I go over the user interface, I have docking options for the application pane here. But if I put it over a pane, I also get docking options for a pane. So if I hover over the middle while I'm docking and release, I've now nested it back in its original spot. So I'll do that again. I drag it off. I want to put it back. I drag it and I hover over the center graphic here and release. In addition, I can also change the order by just dragging the tabs. So you can truly customize. You can create a pane of your own that has any one of these panes nested in a multi-tab, or just leave them individual. Now, imagine I was working on a dual monitor, I could take the layer display pane and put it off to the right, and it will forever live there. Every time I open CAM350, it'll always be on the right. Every time I open it on my right monitor. And again, if I want to put it back, I double click. It remembers its last location. Okay. So now I'm just going to drag it, put it back. Now there's some other features in panes as well. In the case of the analysis panes, we have some other features that may not be inherently obvious until you play with them a bit. So each of the groupings in DFM can be collapsed or expanded. And in fact, each of these DFM analysis are panes. Copper spacing is a pane. And I can actually shrink the size of the pane, but expand and collapse it horizontally or vertically. Let me show you that. So I'm going to go to the analysis ribbon. I'm going to grab the copper spacing. I'm just going to open it. Now, by default, the way we ship the software, these panes are floating by default. Of course, you could dock them to the interface and do whatever else you could do with panes. What I'm going to do is shrink the pane horizontally here. And what I'll show you is that each one of these group titles can be expanded or collapsed. So if you're really, things you're not really caring about, you don't use a lot of these features, you can just make them disappear temporarily. If now I have, because I shrunk it horizontally, I have a vertical scroll bar. Now I can click it one at a time and it goes over, or I can just double click. Now for each DFM checking, we also have filters. Well, guess what? The filters allow you to contract and expand as well so that you can take advantage of the real estate and see more content of maybe the layer filters. Because otherwise, if you don't, they're like this, and then you're constantly scrolling to find them. But if you just collapse them, then you can access them much easier. So I'm going to close that. Now, there's a couple of panes I want to show you a little bit more about, just to give you a feel for what we've done with these panes. And the two panes that I'm going to focus on for this presentation are going to be the selection filter pane and the layer display pane. There's a lot of things going on with these panes that maybe you haven't really experimented with. So the selection filter is always by default auto hidden to the right. Now, how do I get it back? I just hover over it. And you can see that the selection filter pane has multi-tabbed. Now, these are not panes. This is just a multi-tab dialog, if you will. These are not panes. But you could see that these filters are here. Where did these filters come from? Those of you who are 12.2 users would recognize that on the dashboard, there were these filter capabilities for pretty much every command. So they were always sitting out here on the dashboard. Now we've moved them into a dedicated selection filter pane. Now, of course, you could auto dock it as well, or auto hide it. Dock it or auto hide it. But I want you to notice a couple things. So if I go to a command like, excuse me, I want to change a decode. Now, as soon as I click decode, watch what happens on the right. The selection filter pops up because it recognizes that, you may want to make a change here. So I'll click it again and I'll hover over. And now I have the same filtering that I had before in CAM350. I'm going to choose minus, enter, turns off all the decodes. So now I can't select anything. I'm going to say, I want to select only the D10 decode. I'm going to go to our area selection. And I'm going to select an area of the board. And now I can change. I could have selected the whole board. And now I can do a change decode. So it was very quick. I opened the command, went to the filter, checked the filter that I want, turned on the decode that I wanted, did an area select, and I'm now actively in the command. Just to go a little further, I can go in, here's a drill layer. And maybe I want to delete some drills. Now, I know this is not something you would commonly do. I'm just trying to demonstrate the feature. So if I click delete, I can go on the drill, same thing here, into minus, enter, and I'm going to turn on just the 13 decode drills. That means I'm only going to select drills of size 13. Now, again, I do area selection. I select a bunch. Again, the filter applied that selection. And if I want to, I can go ahead and delete them. I'm not going to do that here. But you get the idea that the selection filter is right there at your fingertips. You can use it. It's very quick. And again, you could choose to take that selection filter and push it to another monitor. And then it's always available to you instead of this constant hide and show. Now, the layer display pane. So if you're familiar with CAM350 of the days of old, this had a lot of benefits to the user. But we've done a lot of things here, I believe, that will make this much more usable than the layer pane in CAM350 12.2. Of course, you can't talk, so you can't debate it with me. So what I'll show you here is what we've done on the command bar is we've put a lot of quick access features. Turn on all layers, turn off all layers. right? I'm not right clicking to find it in the menu. Just turn on all layers, turn off all layers. Another thing you can do with CAM350, I'll turn all layers on for a second, is I can save colors. So let's say I like this color. No, I don't. I'm going to go open a color file that I saved from a previous design, and I'm going to load it. This is a saved color file. So all the colors, traces, and flashes that apply to their layers will be loaded from that file. Now, I purposely put all these odd color configurations just to show the point that these color files are available to you. So if you're always working with the same layer combinations, a lot of the same designs, you can save and restore the colors instead of having to reset them every time. So now I'm going to go back and load another color, that file that I saved, that happens to be the previous color settings. And now that I've done that, you'll notice that there's the icon and the drop-down. If I select the drop-down, they're sitting right here. All colors, demo colors. Not even fewer clicks once you start using these color schemas. So you find that there's a lot of benefits to setting and saving and recalling colors. Now, as I said, this is the selection pane, so selection column, sorry. And this is where I can select a bunch of layers. Right click, hide layers, right? It's that simple. Or if I prefer, I could even do random selection. And maybe I'll make those reference layers. And I'll select this layer and I'm going to make it a draw on top layer. Oh, sorry. Huh. Hold on, having odd behaviors there. There we go. So what I want you to note is the ability to do random selection, multiple selection. Oh, by the way, if I want to change the order of a layer, I just drag it. I'm going to put layer 2 down below layer 3. So that's all in the layer display pane. Now, a couple things to note. Notice why is top layer name bolded? It's the draw on top layer. Why is dielectric layer italicized? Because it's a reference layer. So we put some visual feedback in this layer display pane as well, so the user gets the idea. I know what layers are referenced, what are draw on top, and so forth. Now I'm going to put this back. I'm going to go back and show all layers. Now I'm going to spend a little time on this Worldview pane. So the Worldview pane is something new in 14. And it gives you a perspective of where you are in this view in the world of the design database. And as you can see, there's this red graphic around. If I zoom in here, sorry, zoom in, the red graphic represents my viewing window. Well, in the Worldview pane, I can just slide it around and choose a different view. I don't have to pan with my mouse. I can even resize the view, right? Shrink the view. So I can use this view portal as a way to get to a certain part of the design very quickly. By the way, I can also set layer transparency on and off real quick. I can even flip the view to see it from the bottom instead of seeing it from the top. And now if I zoom in a lot, I'll show you another feature right here, is I can turn on things like decodes, net names, and pin numbers. These are graphics that are shown in the appropriate locations. Obviously, I see net names over nets. And if I go to the F modeless command, which turns off the fill, I can see decodes, or if I prefer, so I could see decodes or pin numbers. Now, you're always going to have some overlap because that's the way it works. There's always decodes on top of decodes. But the idea is you can use this pane to quickly access these features to turn them on and off. By the way, you also have those here too. Decodes, net names, pin numbers. Okay, they're also here on the view ribbon. Now going back to the layers, I'll look at the layers tab, the layers pane down here. Now this is different than the layer display pane. This here shows you all the layers and a lot more detail about the layers. This is where you rename layers. You don't do it up here. But I want to show you the color matrix. Now, this is something that many users may not be familiar with. So it looks like a duplication of the layer display pane until you turn design mode on. And now what I'm looking at is I'm looking at the database the same way I might look at it in my CAD system. I have layers top to bottom, objects left to right. Well, guess what? Let's say I want to turn all coppers off. I just select the copper column and I turn them all off. Now, there's a super special secret trick to do that I'm going to let you in on. When I select the whole row, before I click that checkbox, I'm going to control click the checkbox. By the way, I want to take everything on layer 1 and make it red. So I control click the color tile, and it makes the whole layer red. So these are features you won't find in the layer display pane. You won't find them in the layers pane, only in the color matrix, in design mode. If I am in CAM mode, I get the usual things you're accustomed to with CAM350. Let's look at the pad stack pane. Okay. One other thing that you may not realize, we've had these features of CAM350 for a while. If I select a certain pad stack, right, I can say fit to view. It's probably in, try that again. Okay, there it goes. Sorry, I selected something that was in my view, but you can see that this is an instantaneous fit to view or fit layer, right? Show all the layers where these views are present, but of course you also have these auto find, auto fits. So if I just select them, I get the same behavior, but automatically without touching it. Also, I want you to notice in the pad stack pane, we also have a preview. As you select, you can see a preview of what that pad looks like. Same thing for the decodes. If I select a decode, the preview is right there. It's built into the pane. So you don't have to do anything special to get to it. Okay, 1127. I'm going very fast. I'm racing through this because I want to show you so much. Ribbons are kind of like horizontal menus. They have a very specific purpose. Insert, design, analyze, drill, mill. Those are the ribbons that we have. Now, ribbons can be minimized if you don't want the ribbon there. You don't want to see it. That's okay. Just minimize it. And what you'll notice on ribbons is they're organized in groups. Like this happens to be the command group graphic objects. Now, ribbons can be customized, and I'll show you that in a second. And another thing you could do with ribbons is you can use the Alt key. Not many people know this is out there. But if you're a keyboard person, instead of a mouse person, you like to use your keyboard all the time. You don't really like using the mouse. Well, we have that solution for you. I'll show you that in a second as well. We also have screen tips. If you have a person who's learning CAM350 for the first time, these screen tips are invaluable. They just simply hover over the command. First, it tells you a description of the command. It's add text. And then if you hover long enough, it'll actually tell you the steps on how to use the command. It's basically a help topic on that command at your fingertips or at the screen tip. What does that look like? So I'll go back and first I'll show you a little bit about the ribbons. As I said, here's the groups and the commands. Now, why is that important? If I shrink CAM350, notice what happens. All the ribbons kind of go away. Sorry, the groups go away. That's because we're trying to, preserve the ribbon. Instead of truncating the commands, we truncate the ribbon. But if you click on a group, the group will appear. So if you're one of those people that's still working on a 640 by 480 monitor, well, this would be very helpful to you. Most of us are at least 1080p or greater. But anyway, I just wanted to show you that that's how that works. Now, as far as where the Alt command works, I'm going to press the Alt key. And what you see is these little graphics that appear above various commands. Well, H for home, I for insert. So if I choose H and then press SV, I get the stack up visualizer, right? So let me do that real fast. H at SV. I got the stack up visualizer. What was that? Press the Alt key, H, and then press SV. So if you're a person who likes to use the keyboard and can start to get accustomed, you can get to these things very quickly. How about Alt I, and T. Now I'm adding a text object. What about Alt? Oh, sorry. Hey. Let me get out of the command first. Alt 3. Excuse me, I pressed F3. Fat fingers. Alt 3 will be a save. One more time. I keep hitting the F3. Alt 3 is a save. I didn't make any changes, so it just saved my design. If I do Alt 2, it's a file open. So it would take some time to get accustomed to where these commands are. Take some time to relearn yourself of using the Alt key first, but they're out there. And there may be some times when the S is used differently on every ribbon. There might be an S on this ribbon, an S on that ribbon. That's okay. The goal, or the Microsoft standard, is to never have the same code used twice on the same ribbon. And you will find that. If you find it used twice on the same ribbon, that's a defect. Let us know. Now, I want to show you something else that you may not be aware of. So here are two commands, add arc, add circle, that have modes, right? So if I want to add a circle, I want to add it by center radius. I choose center radius and I draw my circle, right? So if I want to do 3 points, I draw it with 3 points. Well, see how there's two parts of the ribbon command? This remembers you just want to do an add circle, and it's going to remember the last one you chose. So now all I have to do is add circle, and I don't have to constantly go find the right command. Oh, I want to add circle center radius. Every time I go back and select add circle, it's going to remember center radius. Same thing here. If I do add arc, and I'm used to doing a 3-point arc, I can do 3-point arcs, and every time I go back to that add arc command, it's going to remember that the last thing I did was 3 points. So you don't have to constantly change these modes or reset the modes. If you're a person who does arcs of a certain type, just set it once and it will remember every time. Now remember, this type of thing is only saved per session. Okay, I'm going over my time and I apologize. I'm going to go through the last piece, which I'm sure everybody's waiting on, which is how to customize the user interface. So to be very clear, the things that you can customize are the ribbons, and you can customize keyboard shortcuts. And finally, the quick access toolbar. So I'll go through that very quickly. How do you get to customize the ribbon? Oops. Very simple. Just hover under an empty area of the ribbon, right click and choose customize the ribbon. And then you'll get this dialog on the right. So here I am, empty space on the ribbon, right click, customize the ribbon. And here's the dialog. Now what you'll see on the left are the collection of commands that are in the system, and on the right, the current commands on the ribbons. So the first step you could do, a lot of people like to do it this way, is I'm going to add a new tab. What is a tab? It's a ribbon. It's special code. Nobody knows, but now you know, the secret's out. It's a ribbon. So now that I've created this, I'm going to rename this and call it, well, I'm going to call it my ribbon. Mark. Now I can change the order of the ribbon where it appears on the UI. I'm going to put it at the end. And what is a new group? A group is going to be my commands, right? Remember I mentioned groups. So now I've created it. I'm just going to click OK to show you, yep, there it is. And there's my group, but it doesn't have any commands. Now I can go in, and maybe I'm a person who, yeah, I do a lot of certain things. I do a lot of graphic work. So I'm going to put add line into this group, add line, add circle into that group, add rectangle into that group, and so forth. And by continuing to do this, I can build my own custom ribbon with my own commands. So I don't have to hunt and peck for commands. If I only use a certain amount of them, I just go to my ribbon, and there they are. And you could put them in any order, as you saw. You could create as many groups as you want. You could fill this whole ribbon if you wanted to. But the idea is that you can customize it. keyboard shortcuts. If there's a lot of commands you use all the time and you want to set a keyboard shortcut, go ahead and do that. Now, the only thing you have to be careful about is reassigning a shortcut that's already assigned, right? Like we all know what F1 does. Don't put F1 in here because then you'll never get access to the help file. But of course, you can always remove the assignment. But if I want to make add arc, Control A, I just select add arc, and on my keyboard, I press Control A, right? And then I have to do the next step, which is assign it. Now notice right here, it says assign to unassigned. That's a good thing. That means Control A isn't used anywhere else. So I'm going to assign it. Okay. So now I've done all this customization. I go to the home ribbon and I press Control A. Oh, I think I forgot this A. This is user error. I did it. There it is. I think that was user error. I was probably still in another command. But as you can see, I'm now in add arc. And I'm also in add arc in the last mode that I chose. Okay. So one last thing, I know I'm way over my time, apologize. But one last thing I want to show you. If you really mess it up and you don't know where you are, here's the quickest way to get back. Just click reset. What that does is it clears all the customizations. Or even better, if you want to share it with others, hey, I made my custom ribbon, export that to a 14.1 or 14.5 file, give it to your coworkers, and they can include it as part of their customization. They'll have your ribbon and your customizations, including your INI file settings if you choose. And then finally, as we all know, if I put all these GUI components off on other monitors and all of a sudden I can't find them, there's always the one fallback thing that you can do. You go to the registry editor, which, you know, not a lot of people like to do this, but I promise you, if you just go to the registry editor, delete that registry entry, you'll lose a lot of things, but it will reset it to the installed defaults. So this is kind of a last ditch effort. I pushed off the layer display pane to my monitor on the right. Today, I'm not working with that monitor on the right, and I can't see the layer display pane because I don't know where it is. There you go. Just delete the registry, it'll come back to you. Again, I caution that you should only do that as a last ditch resort. You know, I can promise you that in my environment, I do it all the time because we're testing new code and everything. So I apologize for going over my allotted time, but I thought it was very important to get some of that. Remember that I went very fast, and if you missed something, that's okay. These videos are going to be posted on our website soon, and you'll be able to see me go through those steps again. And you can always reach out to us if you have questions about it. So with that, I'll hand it back to Ray.
All right, thanks, Mark. We do have a question here. Can you show the customizations tools and how to add that to the ribbon?
You mean how to add the command to go to access to customize the ribbon?
I believe that's the question. If the user could comment there, I'll confirm that.
Isn't that like trying to find your easy button with your easy button? Can that be done?
Add custom tools.
Yeah, sorry, can't do that. No, you can't do that because it's not a, I don't know. Go to the next question and I'll keep looking. I don't think it's here. Yeah, I don't think I'll find it. I'd have to experiment a little bit.
What is the tools there?
If I find a way to do it, I'll get back to you.
Okay. This tools menu, I believe this is what he was asking about, how to use that.
So in CAM350 at the moment, we're going to try to correct this. It's not working. So the idea is I could show you in Blueprint. Again, I apologize. I'm going over my time here, but I'll show you in Blueprint. CAM350, I just recently discovered that it's not working. So we're going to try to fix that before release. If I go to customize the ribbon, not in CAM350, but let me just show you real quick. I'm going to put in a command here that says launch CAM350. That's all I wanted to do. And I'll select the browse here, and I'll go to CAM350. I'm going to pick the executable, and I'm going to say, when I choose that command, it opens CAM350. Okay. Now I go back to customize the ribbon. Oh, I just did this yesterday, so tools. Hold on, it'll come to me. So here it is. Now, how did it get there? I just did this the other day. I'm sorry. Sometimes even I forget things. It's in here somewhere. Somewhere in here is the command to select. I'm embarrassing myself here. I think it's two times. Oh, I just had this. Roman showed me this morning. Reminded me how to do this. Anyway, the idea is you want to put it here once you find it on the left. Go ahead, ask the next question, and I'll keep looking.
You showed the decodes and I believe it was pin numbers and earlier. Is there any way to default those on or off?
Sorry, what specific default what on or off?
The pin numbers, decodes, and net names.
Is there any way to default them on and off? I don't know, Ray. Have you found a way to do it? I don't think so.
Yeah, in the options dialog, there is a way.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Sorry. Thank you. Yep.
Can you show that?
Is it here? CAM editors general.
I believe it's in colors.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. I meant to show that too. Yes, here you go. So here, if you whatever controls you put here, if you save to default, they'll be set to this mode by default, and you can also set a different color for these labels if you prefer. But once you hit save as default, it writes and stores them. So every time you open up the CAM350 session, they're off by default.
And I'm just going to jump in, Mark. I want to caution people, don't do this with a design loaded. Make sure you are doing it in a blank session when you decide to set these defaults. And you might want to mention the board outline being in there since you're in there as well.
Oh yeah, that's another change that I mentioned the other day. That board outline is a new feature in 14.5 where you can turn it on or off and set the color. That's because we introduced layer profiles with rigid flex. But yeah, save as default means basically whatever's in memory and all these options, save it as the default. So what does it do? It writes a CAM file that CAM350 opens on every startup. So you got to be real careful. That's correct. Should be an empty design before you do save as default.
Okay.
So going back real quick, I found it. I forgot it was under here, custom tools. This is where, when I created this, it gets stored here under tools, main tabs, tools, custom tools. That's the piece that's broken in CAM350 is this piece right here. We got to get that fixed. And then all I did was say add and push it here. And then now, as you can see, when I go to the tools ribbon, I can launch CAM350. Right? I can run a VB script. You know, I can call my mom, whatever you want to do. So it's there.
Yeah, a real common one from my user groups or my training sessions is people like to put a text editor in there so they can just real quickly jump to that.
Yep. And you can put arguments too. So if your text editor says, you know, open file X or open on as with some sort of defaults, as you can see, when you customize, you can tell the application that it can have some arguments as well. So
Thanks, everybody. And thanks again, Mark. And hopefully we'll see you on another session.